Now, I'm going to draw out the cutting lines for the end pieces that hold the handle. As we saw in the drawing, it's going to be 5 inches. I'm just going to make a little mark there. Now up here, you need to find the center of the top up here, and this is 5 inches wide. And so I've got 2.5, so I'm assuming that's going to be right, but it never seems to be. There, it'll be right in the middle of that. And so one in the corner there. These are always sharp, but they break a lot. I guess they're not sharp when they break, but there. And now, assuming that's not some random mark and that's actually the mark that I made. There we go. Let's go ahead and use a center punch to I'm going to do something here, which is probably something you're not supposed to do, but it would be the first time I did something I wasn't supposed to do either. I don't have a tapering jig for my table saw. I think I used to, but I don't know if I ever used it, and it's probably been lost in the move when we moved out here. But what I've done is lined up the rip fence and a straight line where I touched both teeth and got that where this line is lined up straight on the blade. And then I'm going to use the this to push, and be careful to and do it slowly. It will have a piece between the blade and the rip fence, but that part's going to be well past when it gets to a cutoff spot, so it shouldn't be flung around anywhere. But I'll put on my other safety equipment anyway. So okay, plug in the saw. Here we go. All right, that worked out mostly okay. They didn't come out as even as I would have liked, but it's going to be all right. I'm actually not going to be that picky on this. I want things to be done right, but this is okay. Just because it doesn't match up exactly on the line there, it actually is considerably off. It's okay. But I did get a bit of chip out here, so I'm going to use that on the inside, but that can happen, and I don't think I actually have another decent piece to be able to use for this that's totally clear. So okay, next is to drill these holes out. I also need to double check the size of the dowel that's going to be used for the handle that's going to go between the two before I drill that hole, and obviously drill a hole in a test piece and see how it fits. Well, drilled some test holes. Actually picked the wrong size bit on one of them. The way they're arranged in the storage box and the way the sizes are written, it's always kind of confusing. So, but the only one that's really going to work is that one, is the 1 inch size. And you can see it. Let's see. There. I mean, next one is, this next smaller one is just way too small. And then, so I'm going to go ahead and drill those here. And actually, one small point, I went and looked at the drawing for another reason. And the fact that I didn't get these to the exact right spot I had drawn doesn't really matter, because that was the wrong spot anyway. I was supposed to have it up at 6 inches. These are supposed to go all the way to the bottom of the, with the bottom of the bottom put on, not just the sides. So, hey, doesn't matter. So I'm going to go ahead and drill these out now. Now I'm going to put the handle holders on. Of course, the proper way to do this would have been to make this and this one piece, with this being taller, but that would have required a large piece of material that I don't have. So do what you can with what you have where you are. Adding in another, perfectly acceptable, not that big a deal. And what we're going to do, now this is 10 inches. Oops. This is 5 inches. So take the difference, split it in two, or hey, forgive the math, but subtract this size from this size, divide by 2. And in this case, that's, 5 inches divided by 2, 2.5. It's pretty straightforward. But, in other situations, that's not necessarily going to be the case. So, anyway, there we go. That's right. And I'm going to go ahead and draw some lines there, so I'll know exactly where it is. And what I'm going to do is I am going to glue this on, but I'm going to screw it inside also, even though the screw, actually, I may just screw it in because, well, I'm going to go ahead and put some glue on it too. I mean, that'll make it that much stronger. The screws will hold it. I'm going to put 3 screws, one here, one here. And again, it would look nicer if it didn't have the screws, but I'm also not all that, these pieces aren't as flat as I would like, so they may not glue as well as I would like. So I'm going to screw it too, and that'll hold it. All right, now this is one of the cases where I am going to do this in the expedient fashion, which is going to be just driving the screws in directly without doing pre-drilling, because I've got it clamped in place, and it's also away from edges. When you're close to an edge, that can cause splitting. These are intended for not having pre-drilled holes, but whether they're intended for it or not, you get near the edge on something, or if you're running, into the middle, sometimes it can cause it to split. So if you're worried about it, then you drill pilot holes. In this case, I'm just going to go ahead and drill them in. Of course, I still want it to look nice. They're going to be visible, so I am going to measure and put them in, regular places rather than just sticking it in there and drilling. I'm not going to show that because you guys know how to use a measuring tape or a ruler. All right, I've got these 2 marked out. The third is going to be really close to where this clamp is, so I'm going to get these 2 done first, then move the clamp and put the third one in. So, I just realized something. These are 2-inch screws. This is 2 inches of material. It's possible that it will come out the other side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start them and get them going most of the way in, and then since they don't have pre-drilled holes or pre-countersunk, it'll it won't just drive through real easy. And it can, but I'll be careful with that. But once I get the hole started, I'll probably go ahead and grind the tips of those off. One of the advantages of having one of these impact drivers. A drill will drive these screws all the way through and run it out the other side, almost like drilling a hole. The impact ones don't. See, if you get there, this point, and you get this small. It gets a certain point, and then it makes it with the impact. It just gradually drives it through. There we go. Flush. Not sticking out the other side. Not too bad. And I just sanded on my belt sander. I just sanded about 1/8 of an inch off of that, the tips of those. So that worked pretty good. Okay, gonna just do that for the other side. Well, the end is in sight. Now, time to put the handle in. And, well, let's see. See if that, now, I'm gonna have to thread through. Yeah. Okay, this is another first time thing I'm doing. I'm going to drill a hole here, and then put a peg in. Drill a hole, put a peg in that holds it in tight, firm. It won't go anywhere if it's done properly. So I'm expecting to have 1 inch in overhang on each side, assuming these were straight. But let's go ahead and see how much is here. Let's just put it at 1 inch on one end and see what it is on the other. 1 inch and 1/16. Oh my gosh, we're gonna have to start over. No, hey, good enough, man. And that's a good enough. That's okay. I'm gonna mark that spot. Okay. Now what I'm going to do, trick here is actually also to mark evenly. I'm sorry. Trick is to mark in the same spot. I'm just going to, well, that's actually not right. Yeah. Actually, yeah, the hole, I'll go ahead and mark that spot. The hole, I'm going to have it overlap, and I'm going to make a peg out of this, but it'll be like a half peg, so it'll be flat on one side, and it'll help squeeze the pieces together. But I don't want the hole, I want the hole to be centered a little bit here so we get some squeeze action, because my luck, if I didn't do it right, the peg would just slip right through. Okay, trick here is to get, and actually I don't think it's going to be that hard, is to get the marks in the same spot. So that they're actually pointing the same direction. We don't have one pointing straight down, the other one kind of cockeyed. That's good enough. Okay. Well, let's go drill these holes. But hey, once again, I'm going to drill a test hole to see. These are theoretically 1/2 inch, but actually they're large. I think I've found that many of them are larger, which in this case is actually a good thing. I'm going to go drill a 1/2 inch test hole in this, and we'll see what this size is, and then we'll go from there. So we have our test hole drilled, and this is snug but goes through. Couldn't have been better, actually. So that's going to work. Now we need to drill the holes in here. However, I'm going to need to do a test drill for this in a cutoff piece, because I want to see how the how the drill bit's going to treat this wood. I mean, most people are used to seeing drill bits like these. Just a regular old drill bit. These are actually intended for metal. But I mean, we use them for wood and everything also too, but only when you're not, I guess when you're not really worried about whether or not it's going to splinter. I mean, you're drilling 2x4s to put together a chicken coop or something, and I'm sure any of you that have done that have noticed that, things have a tendency to splinter out, not just on the back when you come through, but in the front when you start drilling. So there are other types of drill bits that that you can use. We've already seen the Forstner bit that I've used. There's also these things called Brad point bits. We're going to give, I'm going to just try the Forstner bit because it's such a clean cutting, but still, it says it's hardwood, but hardwood means that it has leaves that fall off. It's a deciduous tree. Leaves fall off in the fall. It doesn't mean that the wood is necessarily hard, and it might be subject to splintering. So let's go ahead and do some test drilling and see what happens. I'm going to start off with the Forstner bit because, well, it's still in the chuck from when I did the test drilling on that other piece of wood. Oh, let's just go for it, see what happens. Well, you see about an inch from the end, because that's what's going to happen where we're going to be drilling it. It's good enough. Hey, looks like that's going to work to me. Okay, there is right. We want to get it a little bit inside, like I mentioned before. I think that'll do, because I want to make sure it snugs in. Oop. Getting in too much of a hurry. When you're drilling through a cylinder, it's real easy to get the thing cockeyed. Cockeyed, that's one of my favorite words. A lot of favorite words. Anyway, so I bought these a long time ago, relatively cheap. You can actually make something like this out of a chunk of wood using your table saw. You cut to 45 degrees. But what it helps do is center your piece. Where you get that up at the top, and then you're going straight down. If you just stick it there like I was doing, you could get it like this and drill it off center and, well, cockeyed. So let's go ahead and do it right, or as Wrangler Star would say, proper. Of course, I don't know if proper is really a good word for anything I've been doing here lately. I'm going to get this started. Obviously, if I drill all the way through down there, I'm going to have this hit this, and that would not be good. Once again, these small Forstner bits, because you got the shaft size, very little space for the chips to come out. So there we go. Let's do that. Just go back to here, and we'll let the pre-drilled hole do the guiding for us. There we go. Splinter a little bit coming out the bottom because it's not flat on the bottom, but hey, actually I even heard it. That sucks. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start it, get it drilled through part way. Well, and then I'm going to take this small diameter drill bit, and because of this point, it's, there's a, down the bottom of the hole, there's a little point there. I will center the piece in, I'll change the drill bit out, and drill that small hole all the way through, and then flip it over and use that hole to center this point and drill back in. Let's see how it works. I'm fairly confident. Okay. Well, it does have to be able to, hey, I know. Use your brain. Clamp. Squeeze it. Don't sit there and mess with it. Oops. There. Squeeze it. Knock it in. Oops. About halfway through. Looks cool that way. About halfway through. There, let it go. Perfect. Looks like I planned it that way. Amazing. Christmas present number 2 finished. Thanks for watching, everybody. God bless. See you next time.